and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. Happy 11/11 Gateway, which this year actually is a triple 11 because we also are, as you know, within the 11 universal year. So I wanted to do this video special once again, bring up the topic of divine reunion and kind of share with you a little bit about this, what's been going on lately, the insights I have received, and therefore this will specifically, although it is a video for everyone as always, everything is unity, but specifically for those of you who have been asking yourself about your journey of divine reunion in terms of physicality and the physical expression and coming together. So I was actually reading here yesterday from the Joshua channelings, the part which talks about the integration of the feminine and masculine energies, and of course the dance of polarity. And it really gave me this deepening insight of how this relates to the physical aspect of our well-being, and how do we tend to ourselves and take care of ourselves physically through the masculine and feminine principles of polarity. And of course these are masculine and feminine forces of life. It's the way everything is created. So more on the notion, as you know, I always share about divine union in such a way to bring about this within, to create this illumined template of being, rather than, you know, being fixated on a certain person and aiming towards union or union with them. That's not really what sacred union is about. I know that probably a lot of people who have started to follow my videos when I shared a lot on this twin soul concept, they started to move other ways because this somehow probably didn't ring true to them, because they're still kind of like very much in this whole notion that union is about coming together with a certain person. In truth, as I've shared with you many times, what people call the twin flame reunion has nothing to do with divine sacred union. This aspect of the inner feminine masculine forces of life merging through all of the levels of our body, our physicality, as our new bodies are being formed. So this new template in truth is all about what we create internally. So go back a video where I've made I think the title was Divine Synthesis, for those of you on the journey of divine reunion and feeling that something is culminating, something is coming up. And the guidance I've received is actually this year, the 11/11, which is a triple gateway, marks this pivotal point where our new foundation in this body can truly become physical. And I've been talking about anchoring roots for quite a while, if you know. So as I've been reading this book, a paragraph here yesterday, something made a click and I almost had tears in my eyes, and this is how I know things to be true. It really rings deep with the resonance of the body, and there's a deep, it's almost like an unlocking that occurs at that time when our framework is being seen and witnessed at a completely new level. So what a lot of people have been aiming towards is coming together with a specific partner, either someone they have already in their mind as their counterpart, or someone that they have what they say never met, or someone they energetically tune into or feel. So what we also feel at the same time is what we call the etheric twin, which is the counterpart energy met, what we call it in the spiritual form, right? We feel it in our bodies, and we, at different specific points of deepening the journey of union, we're going to bring that energy in the body. So this is what we sometimes say, the feeling of union is stronger now, and then it kind of veins again, and we do the integration part, and then we have to have certain human experiences and again. So as you know, it happens in the uncoiling serpents of life through the life force emerging and cultivation process. But the most funny thing is that people are still not aware how this final step of this journey occurs through what I call the building of the house within, the home within, which is you as your inner masculine feminine on all aspects, not just what you know yourself spiritually to be. And this is when many people kind of, you know, this is this is where the trick is at, because many people don't see that part. They think, well, because I feel that to be my spiritual truth and origin, I somehow don't have to do anything about it. It will just happen, or it's just happening. But it's not really true. So what's really also shared here in this book is that we are not tending enough to the lower 3 chakras, which are our main work on our planet right now, because a lot of times, as you know, we're going to move the soul energy away. We're going to try to move away from what's really important, because there's either some sort of lack of knowing why we're truly here. We're not remembering our true divine purpose. In times of difficulty, in times of challenges, we feel we'd rather just go out, sometimes in extreme cases, even leave the planet. Or if I'm not met in these conditions, you know, that will happen, or I won't participate with this and that. So we try to put conditions, like test ourselves this way. But it's not really working, okay? Because we've actually come here to really bring this side of illumined union into physical bodies, into human bodies. So a predecessor to anything we create outside of ourselves, even what I call the coming together with the sacred divine counterpart in a relationship that's sacred in that origin, doesn't mean it's perfect. It means it's sacred. That means it's built on harmonious principles of life and life-giving. That's what it means. Our tendency to use the word perfection as humans is, as you know, it's kind of off. So for us to really go deep into this process becoming physical, even when you have a physical union with such a being that has embodied what you embody, it means that 2 people had to master and embody the same principles, except the male does, you know, kind of like the counter opposite principle within his own body. Well, the feminine, as the female counterpart, does a different process, but these processes are like the yin and yang, right? So the little of the light is still encapsulated in that of the shadow, and vice versa. So for us to really undergo this process, we have to see where in our physical life one of the counterpart forces is not fully supporting the other. Well, you know, in most of the cases we say, well, I'm not supported in life fully, or I don't have, the woman says, I don't have a man or a masculine that would mirror me, reflect me the way I am to the very extent. So certain conditions happen in our life, right? When we feel more exposed, more vulnerable, and therefore we kind of feel we're not able to be ourselves. And this is what was beautifully, I think, expressed in this book, because it walks you through the journey of the chakras, the first lower 3. And these chakras are kind of referenced as, you know, some being more masculine in essence and some being more feminine, although that's just, as you know, it's just symbolical. Well, you know, it's kind of like this interchange, which starts with the base chakra being more masculine, then the second chakra being more feminine, and we go all the way up to the, with this interchanging process, we come to the crown, which is neither, or it's both. Polarities as one, this unified essence we feel. But we kind of have to go through, and we have to move through these aspects in our earthly journey, because we're not really aware why we're here. Every time we forget that, and we're kind of trying to escape this journey, or we feel we're not supported in some way. So because the first root chakra in its representation of energy is masculine, and it represents the aspect of self-consciousness, so when you're conscious of yourself, when this aspect of self-consciousness, which is purely masculine, does not support the feminine, which is interactive, it's in exchanging, relating dynamics with others, and you feel like you want to open up and be with the world and be with others, and you're not always met with the same conditions, environments even. It's not just the people, you know, we have a relationship with. It's also places, it's environments, it's even landscapes, you know. It's like, it's so much in the world relationship that we kind of sometimes want to render only to relating with another human being. But I was shown that whenever we feel that the external, right, the external component of life reflects that for us, and we feel kind of sometimes not able to express ourselves fully, for there's still a lack of this, you know, it's like within our house of spirit, right at the very root, at our base of the experience for our relationship. This is, the root is the base of how everything then gets to be manifested on earth. So if we don't get down to that practice, to that core level within the root, so bringing the core of the spiritual essence into the core of the physical planetary embodiment, which means we can't override that aspect, we can't overlook it, and in most of the tendencies, right, the feminine, as you know, she feels vulnerable when she's not in a proper environment, supported, provided for in the right way, met up with the environment, meeting her vibrationally. And I know, because I've experienced this myself. I have moments when my energy is so open, and then I remember where I live and the density of the people and the surroundings and all the things people are doing in that environment. I get like, oh, I cringe internally, and that will literally immediately infect it will infect my system because I've allowed it somehow to do so. And in that moment, when you feel something has brought you down energetically, it's because there's a lack of feeling of the safety when you're nested in this supportive space, which is the inner masculine, which is the self-consciousness that represented in the root chakra, is literally the experience for that, right? When we have that merging going on, and you can feel safe, supported, even when you feel you're vulnerable in your sharing and in your interconnectivity with the environment. So when you're in that safe feeling, right, what you call sometimes your bubble, it doesn't mean your bubble will sustain you and only you, and there's no interactions with the outside world, because that also is not a solution, as you know. So being self-conscious, knowing who we are, what's our essence, that we can live it wherever we are freely. We can be freely independent in our expression, regardless of the conditions, the environments, the people, the surrounding, whatever density. And this is what has kept us at bay in a way for so long. It has kept us, or light, a little hidden. So when we feel extremely vulnerable, right, it's the feminine will kind of close up. It's like the rose, right, with its thorns. I was just picking up a rose here. I was looking at it here in this building here, at this house. And once again, she reminded me she has thorns, right? And it's all good, right? Because thorns are in a way representative of, even when there's softness, there's also a need for protection and boundaries, which are healthy and which remind you of you being you. So what I was actually shown is that every time we do that, and there's still a feeling of unsafety and not feeling well in our environment, whatever it is, the situation, there's still a lack of, I can't fully express myself in those conditions, or when I'm met in those circumstances, my light kind of dims. And this was the main factor of why kind of like our energy drops at those moments. And for us to truly integrate this masculine principle that comes as this, there's this nesting house built for the egg. So if you imagine the egg of creation being feminine, then the masculine force is what then holds it together and provides this safe nesting experience. But in our wounded tendencies, right, we kind of think that has to come to us from the outside. So we're seeking for the union outside of us, or that perfect mate, or even the twin flame, what people nowadays call. And it's getting so distorted. In a way, there's this illusion built that just when you have that union, everything will be all right in your life. Just when that partner comes in your life, everything will be safe and you'll be provided for, and there will be co-creation. The importance of the masculine and feminine working together first within yourself, your template for being, your illumined template truly, and therefore then being expressed in the physical as the meeting of those forces that do co-create planetarily, physically, the driven world of matter, which keeps evolving and unfolding forward. Yes, that is important, but it can in no way be achieved, reached, felt, experienced if that is not first met within ourselves. So people who are waiting for that to be met outside of themselves, these conditions or partners, they're still playing out within fields of duality. And there's many people who have maybe beautiful partnerships and they're fine for a while, and then again, and it shifts, but they're still playing out these karmic patterns of when the feminine and masculine forces do not really exist in that fully illumined concept, when they each claim their sovereignty from within and they know that they're interactive within each other. And we can do that. We can each do that within our own template. So this means that the feminine allows herself to feel vulnerable, but at the same time, from within yourself, you call in the masculine principle to hold you. And this means when there's no more feelings like you get triggered each time the environment is not your direct match, or density representation, or it's not a resonant frequency, and then you kind of like close off, your sense of joy is being kind of clouded. It means the feeling of that interaction is still not a permanent temporary establishment within your field. So that means you haven't done the inner union integration, at that level, which doesn't mean you haven't done it at all. So that's what I'm saying. There's so many levels that the union template has to move through for it to become a temporary held platform, which means once you do it, it's done. it's rooted. That's what it means to anchor roots for divine union. So before we had the synthesis, right, the integration of this, all the experiences, everything was starting to come together and culminating. And now this work awaits those of you who perhaps are also finding yourselves to be along these lines and are asking yourself questions like, where's my divine partner? But I have done everything. And yet when we feel like we've done everything and it's still not being met in the physical world, it means divine timing is still reworking something, because we within ourselves are still working on something. So for us to feel that sense of open vulnerability, but at the same time this courage and strength, means that you can shine your light in the densest of the environments and deepest of darkness, regardless of circumstance. This is true mastery. And just this week, I had a run. I was running, and I was once again contemplating on this idea that when you don't like your environments, you want to change them, or, you know, I myself really want to move. But there's something within me that did not want to create this the old way, which is, you know, just get into different circumstances. You know, if I haven't yet mastered feeling beautiful, great, regardless of my circumstance, no matter how shitty it is, right? From the egoic perspective, that tells you this, it feeds you this information. And then Spirit told me, you know, you can have a beautiful home, you can have a beautiful house, whatever you can imagine in the earthly realm, right? But as you know that to be true, the physical realm is a temporary one. It continues to shift and evolve and change. So because of this dualistic nature, it's prone to always being ever changing. And you can have that, but it doesn't mean at the soul level you have created permanent change of establishing that inner home, really anchored your roots. And once you can do that within yourself, you can do it at any realm, any world of creation, anywhere. And this is kind of like where the mastery of the new body is leaving us towards, kind of leading us into. And yeah, this was basically was the sharing that this is what we have to now find sacred space for. We have to allow this, okay? We have to allow those vulnerabilities to speak to us, to show us, right? And when we do create this merging process, you know, what I've discovered myself in my own process is that then when there will be a merging, the sacred inner child, the illumined child, which is the birth of the feminine and masculine together. Now they are together. They're no longer one and the other, but they have found a way to work, cooperate with each other, and knowing to create this stable, lasting foundation this way. Then the sacred inner child, the illumined child, will just start to signal messages of creativity. And it's the creativity that you will usher in, regardless of the circumstance, that will take you forward. This is where the answers lie. And I've shared in a few previous videos before that the answers now lie in our, in many cases, still very dormant, not fully expressed, but in the light of truth. Inner illumined child has all the answers. So when you feel the most stuck, or you can't really be who you are, there's circumstances, conditions, environments, people that tell you otherwise. Listen to that. Find that merging point, the vulnerability of the feminine being supported in her nesting experience through the masculine, being self-conscious. And then that self-consciousness will birth a rising of the sexual life force, which is that creative force, which will start to move up the chakras, the second one and the third one. And the third one also being described as more masculine in essence, which is the solar plexus area, the area of power, but also in many cases the root or the seat of our emotions, and where a lot of emotional healing, as you know, has to take place. And this is also beautifully described in this book, which you can get, of course, at your own free will, at your own interest and resonance. But when it reaches that point, which here is also described as a point of being confident, self-confidence is the second masculine expression. It's not kind of like that boastful, egoic, narcissistic tendency kind of way. It's more like knowing that you can do things. It's like that courageous standing in yourself, in your power, knowing your worth, also your value. And this is what's shifting now. And if we really want to have a permanent, which means a lasting union with the other, means we have to build a lasting union foundation from within. And a lot of people, well, the majority of people is going at this totally wrong way, from the outside in, and it's not like that. You don't chase another person. You don't chase the idea of union. Nothing like that. Even the idea of love. Love in itself is an expression of your wholeness. And this, which means a relationship experience that reflects this inner union, that's completely whole and perfect in itself, is what gets you to, you know, to simply just have that mirror naturally, organically. You don't have to chase for it in any way. And we often think, why is it not happening in our lives? A lot of you who have agreed to establish a lasting template for illumined union, you have waited, but not waited passively, because you have gone through all the stages. And these are not simply the stages people describe in these journal videos, 5 steps or 11 steps to get your twin flame union, or signs of, that doesn't really say anything much about the whole integration process. If you really want to do some work, instead get a book like this, which has true wisdom, you know, not just like these 5 steps you follow and then you're enlightened or whatever, and then you're in union. Is in a way, it's very complex, and it's a simple journey, because the spiritual path at its core and its simplicity of truth is simple, because we do have all answers within us already. So I know myself, I'm allowing myself now this space to feel this interaction, to feel when I get really uncomfortable, when I feel I don't have my highest life or priorities and the environment reflecting that, which I am from within. I feel sometimes I jump out of my skin and I would just get away from it all. You know, it's kind of like that intensity of feeling. And at the same time, I know that only my creativity, expressing it regardless of these circumstances, not associating or engaging myself in any way, because sometimes we identify with our circumstance. This is because there's a lack of this self-consciousness, which is self-awareness, right? Complete awareness of the self, who you are. And when this is done at the root level, right? We have done it on so many levels, and still you're asking yourself, well, why hasn't it manifested physically through a relationship? Because our inner relationship has to be met through the core union template. If you are in the path of agreeing at the soul level, if you have a soul agreement to do it only the illumined way, you're not going to jump ahead and get something less than. You're not going to have half manifestation. You're going to get the whole thing. But for that, we have to do the work, right? And I know there's still people who have their mindset on only one person, and that's their beloved, and that's their ultimate, and they're clearly missing the point. If in any way that becomes a part of your life, or is a part of your life, just, do you have within yourself, because we all do you have this strength, the courage, the purity to simply say, I don't know, right? We all know the beloved as the essence, and sometimes there's people who so mirror that to a certain extent and degree, and when the soul is not yet fully developed, when there's still, you know, patterns of separation, it will want to chase something that is the most kind of like most approximate not appreciation what's the word, most approximate, I don't know, it's kind of like what they want to see, what they want to round up as that it, instead of just allowing the whole of themselves, their being, to be in resonance with what that is, without them aiming to point fingers and say, that's what I want. It's almost like, you know, when there's a tendency, when we create things, we say, I want to move here to this place, and we kind of like specify too much instead of specifying through essence. Same goes for the union with the individual who is your counterpart. So I want to read some aspects from the book as well. I think I've promised once to do so, but I have to get my gloves off, otherwise I can't move through the pages, right? So first I want to read the part of the union of the masculine and feminine as energies, right? So remember, these are first and foremost essences of creation. Right now, you are in the last phase of this history or conflict, in which the male energy has played the part of perpetrator for many centuries. The male energy has long been playing a part in which it oppresses, mutilates, and destroys the female energy. It was not always like that. There have been times in which the female energy had the upper hand and wrongly manipulated and ruled the male energy. But that time is over. The conflict took a different turn at a certain point, and the roles of perpetrator and victim were reversed. The male energy has been in power for a very long time now, and has misused this power in such a fashion that the female energy has been weakened and does not realize the integrity of her being anymore. Whenever the masculine and feminine are in conflict, the disintegration of both is inevitable. Where the feminine gets victimized more and more and gets lost in self-denial, the masculine energy loses itself in ruthless violence and the kind of aggression you know from the many wars in your past. The masculine and feminine depend on one another. When they battle each other, the consequences are disastrous, but times are changing. Since the 19th and 20th centuries, the female energy is regaining its strength and rising above the role of victim. This resurrection comes from deep within the feminine energy. She has finally reached the outer limit of her self-denial. At this point, she has looked herself in the face and has stated, this is as far as it goes. And that's why so many beings who are here in the feminine bodies, they're feeling that. And the feminines are getting so empowered. And still, like I said, even with all this power, we have to see the underlying currents. And maybe sometimes they're not so obvious to us. And once you unlock this, once you become simply aware of it, it will grow so, it will develop so much faster. So by the way, this is how it always goes in the dynamic between victim and perpetrator. Change starts when the victim refuses to accept anymore. The perpetrator could well hang onto his role for a longer while, for he has less of a reason to stop. Revolution starts where the victim refuses to accept anymore and finally takes back her power. In all situations of repression, for example, of women in their family or in society, the real moment of change is when the woman, or the feminine energy within a person, decides for herself, I will not take this any longer. This is when change truly starts to happen. External measures are useless until this moment presents itself. So the female energy has risen and its star is rising. Sorry, guys. Actually, the most urgent matter in this time and age is the transformation of the male energy. It is now time for a new definition of male energy. I could have easily called this channeling the rebirth of the male energy, for I want to stress that it is only in reunion with a matured and balanced male energy that the female energy can flourish again. So you see, you can't wait or hope for someone to be that for you and to be their safe house for you. Sorry, it's really windy today, so my throat got a bit sore. So either way, it's very important that we know that this maturity has to be developed within this process of just dating, the nesting, right? Of this lasting illumined union foundation and template. It's literally an energetic template that you're building in this human form, that you're calling forth, but it has to be seen with maturity. So the female energy has in the past century and even before that regained power and strength. It has begun to flourish in a new and more balanced way. Despite the inequality of the sexes that is still present in your society, the rise of the female energy is unstoppable. However, the female energy cannot gain full strength and vitality without cooperation with the male energy. This goes for the collective level as well as the individual. The female energy cannot make its final breakthrough without the support of and connection with the male energy. This is not because of an inherent weakness in the female energy. It is because of the essential nature of male and female energies, the fact that they're intertwined and can only fulfill their brightest potentials in cooperation. This is why it is imperative now that the male energy reshape itself and venture into the new. And then it also speaks about, how the feminine is now in this process of waiting, but it's not like the kind of passive waiting. It's just doing the inner work that the feminine, right? If you're in a female body, you're in a female body for a reason, because you have at the soul level agreed to do this integration part from the feminine perspective. And this means raising the masculine, right, within you, so that the masculine, which is represented in the male bodies, can also rise up and come to its fruition and to its maturity, right, when venturing into the new. Because there's a lot of males who also have really much courage and strength and beauty and so much potentials, but they're not using them because they haven't done this integration process. So the union journey is all about each individual doing that within themselves. It's the journey of union happening on the it's like a microscopic level, right? So that this grand journey of the feminine and masculine as attributes of life being worked, right, through all of us, flourishing, blossoming, reestablishing, redefining themselves. So just as the feminine has redefined herself and is gaining her power, the masculine has to redefine as well. So the call to the masculine is not to aim for someone. It's like chase for someone. Oh, that's my one, that's the beloved. But it's to call this essence. It's pull it towards you because you're pulling it from within you. Like I've explained, right? It happens, this integration process, at so many levels. And this journey of divine union is so multi-layered and multifaceted, but it is what it is. And you can't really escape it once you have a soul agreement, because it is the origin point for our new blueprint the blueprint for an illumined human, which is in direct relation to this illumined unit. It's what it is. I'm always shown the same thing. All the answers are always the same. So maybe I feel like I'm getting repetitive here, but I really felt at this point, especially at the 1111 gateway, I have to bring this back again and discuss this importance. And for some of you, maybe you get that click, like, oh, this is where I'm at now. Maybe some of you not yet, but you're going there, because everyone is coming towards the exact physical location, right, in the bodies. We're getting to the root portal. If you have no idea what I'm talking about here, I strongly advise you to get some of my union courses. I have a divine union course. It's on my beloved page sector on the webpage Serapina Light. I also have Cosmic Union course, which exactly talks about this, and it also moves you at the last part. First part is always theoretical, right? It's learning about these things, and then the last part is very, very light exercise. It's very much attuned to getting this work done energetically, and there's an activation, and you will release your birthing portals. You will unlock them. You will once again have the birthing portal so that the new body template of the Illumined Union can be reestablished through you. I'm going to talk more about the new body soon. As you know, there's an upcoming course, the new Ascended Body, which is going to be super huge. I'm getting so much information. I thought I'm going to record it this week, but I was getting more insight. I'm like, what? Okay, it's going to be longer, more extended, but that's what he wanted me to share, and I couldn't manage this on my own. It's like I have no control over it. What comes, comes. And I was in automatic writing channeling mode for so many days this week, so it is what it is. Yeah, so you can always assist yourself. I advise you to get this book. It's really based on pure concepts that, you know, whenever I read it, I'm like, oh, it's the same guidance that it's coming from my own illumined realms and illumined council. It's all matching so beautifully. So one more thing before we complete this topic for today is how to get more in your body, because this is the work for the root portal, right? You will definitely feel safer, more supported, more balanced, more this wellness, well-being in your body when, first and foremost, you will want to be here. For a lot of empathic beings, they always want to jump out of the body when something feels too intense, when their environment is dense, but we're not doing any work as light beings, light bearers here. And there's so many techniques when you're calling your soul aspect. Some people still deal with a lot of fragmentation in their soul. So this is, again, it's a complex healing path, but it's also a simple path. Each time embrace everything with love, with consciousness, awareness of love. It's your birth point of origin. So this is very important, to always call all these aspects within you so they can co-create with you, because temporarily you might feel it will be better if you disengage from this realm, this reality. You don't want to be here, but in the long run, you're just depleting yourself of feeling joy and pleasure and bliss here, because you're bringing your essence out and you're losing your life force because of that. The second thing is to be really physical, right? To have physical exercise and activity to move the energy. It's super important. Life breath, life force mastery exercises for cultivation, tantric exercises, as well as meditation, but not the kind of meditation when you're escaping to cosmic realms. This is exactly what Joshua pinpoints here. He says we're not here to go into escapism in cosmic realms. Our work now at this time is primarily to work on, you know, understanding maybe these concepts, how they apply to the lower chakric system, because, you know, as you know, the heart is the merger, is the integrative point. But this point alone, because it unifies, it's the unifying force, it really reflects source, because source is the great unifying force. But just as well, these lower chakras have been kind of put on the back burner for so long, and there's many blockages people experience, like the guidance, how they relate to other realms and get guidance from, you know, celestial essences. They can't come and be fully expressed before this work is reflected, right? Because the heart is like the middle point, and it's always as above, so below. That's what it means, right? So if the below is not taken care of, how can you expect this to be, right? And sustain and maintain in the physical body. The body can only translate and understand as much as the sacred space has been created for. You know, you can expect to get a lot of understanding, can be integrated, without the body being prepared in a sacred way. And this is why the work through the 3 lower chakras has to be done. And this is very beautifully explained here. And it's important for us to observe this process every time we kind of go out of the body, or we want to jump away or be somewhere else. Why do we want to be somewhere else? What's the difficulty? What's preventing us to be who we are, exactly what we are in essence at any time, right? So this is what Spirit has shared with me. Would you rather have beauty and all of that, but it's all temporary? Or would you first want to establish this within yourself as a temporary state of being? Because then you can have it at all times. And you can have all the glitter and gold and whatever, but it will still be temporary. But once you've mastered this internally in creating this illumined union platform, which is basically a template within yourself, you can create anything. Because you're at the very base of your rooted physical experience connected to that, which is the core of the all. So yes, meditation is also important, but not that ungrounded and going into some astral realms or whatever, but mindful, present, embodied meditation, when it really gets your flow. Anything creative, dancing, singing, anything that brings your essence into the body. So notice yourself when this vulnerability to not be fully heard, express yourself, to not be able to feel well, just because certain conditions are that way. This is where we are now, a lot of us. I'm not saying all of us, but you know, everything exists for a reason, and we've chosen it at the soul level. It's an agreement we have to master something, like I said, because there's something we can have temporarily, or there's something we can have as a permanent home base. And once you come home in that way, it's always there. You don't lose it. The soul has permanently awakened to its ability to create that and to manifest through the unified principle of the masculine and feminine polarities of life. And that's the beauty of it. And that for me is true illumined union. It's not chasing after something or someone. Okay? It's not an idea about love, or it's not an idea about what union is. It's everything else. You know, the idea is so superficial. It can't hold, it can't sustain all the light that this union itself truly is. It's without words, you just feel it. Right? And then when it's a permanent experience, it's impenetrable for anything lower, lesser, not lower, but lesser than that, which is not yet remembered its core at an illumined state. So work your magic. Don't forget to apply all these things, right? To notice when your energy feels like it wants to escape, or it's energy leakage. Be present, do grounding work, really ground your energy. Do anything physical exercise, physical meditation to bring your presence here. Work with your soul aspects for all to be present, because let's imagine just one of them goes away. You have one less insight, right? And we're multifaceted. If one insight is missing, you're not whole. That's what we want. We want an illumined, multidimensional template to be in existence right here and now. It's not like I want it now, right? But we know what's our aim. We know what's our purpose. Because that's love. Right? We want to be in love at all times, not just at certain times when conditions are right and ripe, and then we are again feeling bad or crappy. And I know that's a journey towards there. It's not always, you know, easy. So we have to be compassionate for when we don't feel like that. For when our energy does drop and we do feel like, oh, you know, or sometimes even for a few days feeling a little depressed. But then we have to gather ourselves together instead of being pushy, or, you know, it's like telling ourselves off. Being gentle and saying, you know, it's okay, I understand, it isn't always easy, but I also understand this is something I've chosen. I'm not a victim. I'm participating with this. This is what I've chosen. This is my agreement. And because the source narrative says that everything we create first has to come from within, which means everything you can create, nothing can be in existence if it's not already within you. That's where we're doing it this way. Because anything external, it's temporary. People have, beautiful relationships on the outside, not necessarily temporary templates of union. I'm not saying perfect. I'm saying a union that's based on complete understanding of this. First, your inner process, so then you don't get tangled up with the other. It's not about being with the one you love only. Yeah, it's beautiful. But the illumined union journey is so much more than just being with someone you love. It's being that love within yourself so fully, because you just simply have clarity on the masculine and feminine principles of polarity and how they create. It's a union of pure creation. And that's why it is quite a journey and undertaking, but it's so worth it. So anyway, if you have any more, like I said, there's so many courses on this topic that are a part of my mastery series and beyond. You can check that out on my webpage. I also created some beautiful beloved readings if you feel to get some messages, to feel like something is lacking, inspiration or something. They're on my channel. I did a few of them with channeled beloved messages alongside the topics I've shared about this. And you can always support my work. I invite you also to become a member on my Patreon team. I will be moving my content gradually, especially with the new year more there. Because like I said before, I want to work with committed individuals who really want to, you know, in devotion work, in full time with their ascension, physical embodiment process, not just like wishful thinking or, you know, tit for tat. It's more like real, deepened journey. And when you achieve this within yourself, basically you become an offering for that. And this is what I want to create. And this is what I am creating already, in a way. So thank you for being here. You can choose your options, whatever feels that works for you, whatever way you want to support the work in reciprocal energy exchange. And as always, with so much love, wisdom, and power, I greet you. The sun greets you as well. It's shining today. Rarely happens nowadays, but I really wish you a beautiful 11-11-11, and I'll see you on the other side soon.
Welcome into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.